Oh, Shelley plugged it in. It's in the wrong spot.
Welcome, everybody, to our regular council meeting for Tuesday, September 2nd. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We do have all council members in attendance this evening. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi people, and of the Huron-Wendat people. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and of all the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on this land from time immemorial. If you're able, please stand for our national anthem. Okay, we will go to Director Malanjukulo for our closed meeting report for September 2nd.
Andy, through you, on September 2nd, 2025 at 5 p.m., council moved into closed session pursuant to section 239(2)(f) of the Municipal Act 2001 to receive advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And that is the extent of my report.
Declarations of conflicts of interest from members of council this evening. Seeing none, if you find yourself in conflict later, just let us know. Needing a mover and a seconder of the adoption of the published agenda for Tuesday, September 2nd, regular council meeting. Moved by Councillor Guerin, supported by Councillor Hammond. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Adoption of the minutes for the regular council meeting for August 11th, 2025. Needing a mover and a seconder that the minutes be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councillor Verbeek, Councillor Allard. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. There are no public presentations tonight, no unfinished business. We will move to reports from administration. We have Economic Development Report 2025-09, and Mr. Silvera is here to talk about corporate ride grant funding update. Welcome.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to give council a brief overview of our corporate grant writing strategy over the past 3 months. This report will be coming quarterly, so council already received one earlier this year, giving council another update in September. So far, since January of 2024, we're up to about 637,000 in approved grants, which is great. And we have submitted so far about 23 grant applications in 2025, 7 that we're planning on submitting within the next couple of months, and about 4.1 million in pending grant approvals. So in this report, you'll see a list of approvals, grants that we're still waiting decisions on, and grants that were declined. And all that information is in the report. So if there's any additional questions, I would be happy to answer.
Members of council this evening. Councillor Hammond.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. Nelson, you got any kind of ideas, percentage of wins?
Through you, Madam Mayor. I don't have the percentages on me. What I can tell you is that we are not passing up any grant opportunities. So I'm not able to measure the percentage right now, but anytime a grant comes up, we're going after it. I can't tell you the success rate of applying for that grant and getting funding. At the end of the day, those decisions are made by the people that are reviewing applications, the organizations, the ministers in charge of those specific ministries making decisions. But what we do is submit applications based on program guidelines and based on what we think is a valuable application for that specific program based on the projects that we have operationally and in the capital budget.
Sorry. Yep, sure.
Are the grants that were getting declined, I know various reasons and stuff like that, but are we getting some added knowledge, even though we're getting declined from these, as to how to better apply for some of these grants and increase our success rate?
Through you, Madam Mayor. The responses we usually get back are, usually that the program's oversubscribed. So not enough money, too many applications coming in. In terms of detailed response back, we don't usually get that. But we're not submitting grants unless we meet the program criteria. So we know that we're actually submitting for grants that we qualify for. Like I said, at the end of the day, the decision lies with the people reviewing the grant applications.
You. I have a couple questions. The first being, is there a way to compare? I know that everything is different, but is there a way to compare the grants we're being approved for and the grants that the other municipalities around us are being approved for?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't know in terms of what other municipalities are doing. I wouldn't have that information on hand. So I don't know if they do a quarterly grant report. I think everybody in this room follows the news and they can see our, neighboring municipalities are also getting grants. So I can't tell you which ones they're getting approved for, unless they bring it to their councils and we review their agendas.
So the treasurer's group has an email circulating right now requesting that information. I've asked for it to be returned compiled, and once I get that, I'll share it with council.
So my next question through the chair is, while at AMO, I did have an opportunity to speak with other municipalities who were successful in some of the grants that we've tried to obtain that we were not successful with. And one of the things that was successful did, and what were they missing? And I'm wondering if we as a municipality do that. Do we take a look at, we didn't get the sewage treatment plant grant that we applied for. Why didn't we receive it? What do we need to do so that way when that grant comes up again, we can be successful in obtaining it? Is that something that we take a look at?
Mayor, usually when we're applying, we do that. So if we have, say, a project that we think the funding is eligible for, we'll look at the program guidelines. We'll look at past approved projects from that specific stream and compare it to our project and craft an application that best aligns with that specific program. But in terms of going back and looking at approved projects and tailoring it that way, typically we don't do that. But if it's for a new stream or a new project, if we've seen a similar project be approved through that stream, we typically do that.
So I just feel like we're doing a reactive approach and not a proactive approach. I would like to see a little bit of a change in how we approach big grants like this. We're missing out on big opportunities because we're not in a position to obtain those. We're waiting to see that the grant comes through, and then we're trying to fit what we have into the pigeonhole. If we know what the province is looking for, what they're looking for, I don't know why we're not trying to align ourselves. So when that grant comes back, we're already there and we can be like, we are a perfect candidate. Here you go. It's like serving it to them on a platter. I would just like to see us do more of that than wait for the grant to come about and then go ahead and try to figure it out how we can look like we fit.
Chair. Those are all great points. So in our organizational review phase 2, it recommended a new position in finance titled Assistant Manager Budgets and Grants also moved. And this leads into the next report that Nelson's going to present, but grants moved from that analyst position to this assistant manager position. And it would give the capacity to do things such as that and make sure that we are proactive rather than reactive. You'll see leading into the next report that this position was really to kickstart that program, and she's done amazing at it. But the next phase will come in 2026 budget deliberations. Darren?
Grant writing process is extremely tedious and it's oftentimes short deadlines and stuff. I've written some before, they're difficult to get. That being said, though, when they are giving you the no, for example, is it typically, like you said, because not enough money to go around and too much requests? Or will they tell you if it's just the fact that we don't qualify because maybe we're asking for too much, or maybe we're not set up? I think that's where Councilor McGuire, but do we know going in, like coming out of it, what we're missing? So if it comes up again the following year, we can apply for it.
We have made those requests in the past on several applications to see kind of if we went wrong somewhere. That is usually not the case. It's usually that there is just not enough funding to go around and not enough capacity on their end to give a response to hundreds of applications or applicants that are applying through that fund. But we don't get feedback. It's mostly the feedback is the program is oversubscribed. There's not enough.
Further that, then for some of the ones we are getting, environmental ones, EV vehicles and stuff like that, would it be, can I assume then that there's lots of money for that and all the municipalities are getting it, or there was not enough interest from other municipalities and we just happened to get in it.
Madam Mayor, I cannot speak for the agencies that approve those grants. What I can say is that when we write grant applications, we do it as a team here with every department. If there's a grant in community services, we write that grant with the specific manager. We get the budget detail, we get the project detail. Same goes for infrastructure services or development services. We ensure that whatever application we are submitting meets the criteria to ensure that we're best aligned with that specific program. And I think, in some cases, we're asking for letter of supports from organizations to make sure that we have strong applications. We're working with other organizations that maybe don't have the capacity, like the BIA, for instance. There's one on here that, we've assisted them with writing and submitting the application as well. So it's a joint effort, it's a team effort, but at the end of the day, it's not for lack of trying. It's just maybe something didn't align or they didn't have enough money for that specific program.
So it's like administration, we're anxious to get them when they go out, and when we get disappointed, we don't get them all the same. So just trying to fill in the holes as to why sometimes, and when you see other municipalities get certain things and you apply for them and didn't get it, you kind of start scratching your head going, what do we got to do, right? But it's not from a lack of effort. I understand that. Appreciate all your time, everyone that writes them and puts all the work into it.
Any other questions from members of council? I think in terms of some of the bigger grants, like the infrastructure grants that some of the other municipalities are getting, we did not choose to apply again. So we don't know if our second application would have been successful or not. We had a discussion here at council and we chose not to go forward just because of debt capacity and cost to residents in Ward 3. So we had our first application, it was unsuccessful, but we didn't have our second. So we don't know. And I don't know if the bang for the buck would have been there for that one. And I think council needs to have a serious discussion, perhaps again, or maybe the new term of council, where do we want to grow? And then we focus our energies on that because we are a different municipality, very spread out. Do I think McGregor is going to get an infrastructure grant now that Amherstburg got one? Probably not. So maybe we don't focus our energies on growing in Ward 2 and we focus our energies in growing in Wards 1 and 4. But the other thing is I think we need to get the public involved as well, because we do have a not so old success story where we did get $2.2 million from the federal government on the County Road 50 trail. And that really helped us get that project done in a shorter period of time. And some municipalities are not done their County Road 50 trail. So talking to the staff member who no longer, unfortunately, works in the town of Essex, talking to her about that, she said that she used a lot of letters from the community in her grant application. There was this big campaign and we had numerous letters coming to council and she said she added them to the application. So maybe we need to find what's important to our council, what's important to our community, and work on getting those letters of support to help us again. So those are my comments, and seeing no other comments from members of council, looking for a mover and a seconder that the economic development report be received. Moved by Councillor Mady, supported by Councillor Verbeek. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Economic development, the business case for the analyst in economic development and business relations. Director Chadwick.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi, and good evening, Council. So the purpose of this report is twofold: to provide you with an update on the business analyst position and also to provide you with details of a grant application to partially fund the position and to complete various projects. As you'll recall, back in 2024, we were successful in receiving a $65,000 grant from the Rural Ontario Development Program, which we now know as ROD, which was formerly the Rural Economic Development Program called RED. That funding allowed the town to hire a one-year contract position in development services, and so far it's focused on local business support initiatives, of course, corporate-wide grant writing, as Manager Silvera just described, and assisting with action items identified in Council's strategic plan. This grant also funded the purchase, if you recall, of a 2-year subscription to the grant software called Grant Match. That helps to streamline the approach to accessing and tracking funding opportunities. And lastly, the ROD grant funding also further enabled the town to retain a consultant to explore and to prepare a industrial CIP study to assist in industrial business expansion and attraction efforts. So many of you have met our ECDev and business analyst, Rayanne Schroeder. Rayanne was hired in November of 2024. And since that time, Rayanne has completed an array of projects and tasks, some of which have been identified on pages 2 and 3 of the report. Some things and some actions such as 60 business walks, 270 business support packages and distribution, 30 business one-on-one engagement sessions, support with the sponsorship and naming rights policy and info package, facilitation of 30 grant applications as Manager Silvera summarized in the report before this one, and so much more. Also back in 2024, Council adopted an organizational review, which identified the need to expand the Economic Development Division in our department to meet growing demands in business retention expansion, grant writing, and the strategic and corporate-wide project delivery, which is now housed in development services, specifically under the manager of not only economic development, but also manager of economic development and strategic initiatives. As the org review identified, a 1-year contract was created and it expires in a couple of months in November of 2025. So our report describes how maintaining the role will ensure ongoing progress on your strategic goals. It also will ensure that we will reduce risks of missed funding opportunities and will also improve service delivery, to the business community. So although the council adopted org review recommended a permanent full-time position, we recognize that council is currently faced and will be faced with competing budget priorities. So therefore, we recommend a contract extension at this time with a plan to revisit this business case again in the future. So as such, we think about how can we showcase to you as council how to fund this particular extension. We have prepared an application to OMAFA's Rural Ontario Development Program, again, that ROD program that I spoke about earlier that funded this position at the onset, to offset the cost of the analyst position for the next 2 years while supporting the implementation of 3 additional key municipal projects. Those projects being the creation of a development and business concierge service that would streamline investor and business interactions with the town, the implementation of the proposed industrial CIP program and many actions associated with that, program implementation. And then lastly, something that Councilor Maguire-Blaise, you alluded to a minute ago, is completing proactively a housing needs assessment to inform a future housing action plan to support future grant applications, such as the Housing Enabling Grant Program through the federal government, or essentially anything under the housing action lens. These are projects that would be in addition to ongoing business support, strategic and corporate-wide project advancement, and the management of grant writing and reporting. So administration is seeking your support today on a new application to the ROD grant program at a 50-50 cost share to fund the analyst position over the next 2 years. If the grant is not approved, the town would be responsible for 100% of the costs, where council may instead only renew the contract for 1 year rather than 2. The table on page 7 of the report depicts the funding scenarios for you for both 1-year and 2-year contract extensions, with the town's contribution proposed to be funded through the Salary Stabilization Reserve. Thank you, Mayor Bonnie and Council. Both Manager Silvera and I are here to help answer any of your questions, as well as our CA Drusevich, who helped assist as well. Thank you.
Rick, any questions, comments from members of council? What I'll do is I'll get the motion on the table and then we can speak to it. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the economic development report be received and that council support the grant application to support the hiring of a full-time analyst, economic development and business retention position, and that council approves the post-budget operating expense in the amount of $116,000 for a contract extension to the analyst, economic development and business relation position to be funded from the town's Salary Stabilization Reserve. Needing a mover, moved by Councilor Verbeek, supported by Counselor Meady. Comments to the motion. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Mayor, just a quick question on this is an extension of the previous contract. What was the salary rate of that contract prior to this? I understand there's more activities, more nuances to this role now. I'm just wondering what it was prior to this.
The salary band for this position was, I think 71 to 80. What you're seeing there includes benefits. Through you, Madam Mayor, I apologize. As previously stated, the salary band previously was about 71 to 72 to about 80. The salary band stays the same with addition of benefits.
Counselor Hammond.
So I'm assuming we've had this position filled now for approximately a year now? And do we have any kind of grading as to the success and reasons for renewing this position?
Chair, just a small comment, and I'll pass it over to Director Chadwick to fill in any gaps. But what we can look at is, again, as Manager Silvera explained, it's tough because sometimes there is no rhyme or reason as to why we're getting them or we're not. But just from a pure numbers basis, we did see an increase in grants of $62,000. That is promising. I think the most important number is the amount of applications submitted. And so what we're seeing is a drastic increase in the number of applications. It was detailed in the report, and I believe, I'll pull it up right now. Yeah, we were able to submit over 30 grant applications, whereas if you looked at the previous amount, only 13 applications were submitted. So almost able to triple the amount of applications that we're submitting. Obviously, the hope is that more applications means more grant monies.
Mayor, so it's important to note that the position is not solely responsible only for grant applications and grant writing. So as the report indicated, we've been tracking what we consider KPIs or key performance indicators on how this position has benefited the town. Earlier, I spoke to and summarized what's in the report in terms of business walks and business resources, business distribution of information, engagement with our businesses as well. Those are quantifiable in terms of work that we could not have done with one individual employed at the town since November 2024. So that in and of itself and the support that this position has provided our business community is immense. What that has also done is it helped alleviate the pressure on our manager to be able to work on those corporate-wide strategic initiatives that is now under the portfolio of development services. Those strategic initiatives being the sponsorship and naming rights package, the rural transit feasibility study, the industrial CIP study, and so much more. So it has alleviated and provided an opportunity for us to serve council and to really go after those big projects in your strategic plan.
Questions, comments from members of council? I will be supporting the recommendation. I think 1 year is also just a really short period of time for somebody to be in a position. So I think we'll even be more successful in the future. My one question perhaps to our CEO is this to me seems like we're throwing a lot in one person. So is it sustainable? Are we putting too much on one position?
Chair, so mentioned this briefly earlier on that we will be bringing forward recommendations in the 2026 budget deliberations in accordance with the org review. One of those positions was to alleviate some of these duties. I think it's important that one of the duties I think that is worth highlighting is some of the development review tasks that this position would take on. And so what Manager Silvera and Director Chadwick are proposing is that the name they gave it, correct me if I'm wrong, was almost like a development concierge, where they try to help our developers get their applications through at a good rate, at a acceptable application rate. And so we won't hear these, the feedback of time delays in their applications. So the goal is that we absolutely do not want to overburden one of our employees, but to introduce these new tasks. Hopefully at the same time, a new position might be introduced in accordance with the organizational.
For members of council, Councillor Maybe.
Just because brought the concierge service again, it was a topic at AMO too, and it was brought up a couple times that every municipality that introduced this concierge, especially the developer concierge, they did see an uptick in their developments that came to fruition quicker. I believe one municipality even set up to almost 30%. So amazing numbers for it, and I on that alone, I would support this. to have that concierge program developed in here would be wonderful for us, I think.
All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Moving on to Fire and Rescue Services, looking for a mover and a seconder that the Fire and Rescue Services report be received and that council approve the 2025 post-budget approval expense for a new capital project in the amount of $25,000 to be fully funded from grant funding received from Hydro One Energizing Life Community Fund. Moved by Councillor McGuire-Blaze, Councillor Allard, Director Morrisseau.
Mayor Bonnie, and through you, in March 2025, Essex Fire and Rescue Services applied for this fund through Hydro One's Energizing Life Community Fund. So the application contained 3 positive pressure ventilation units and battery packs. So each station will have one of these units. They're eco-friendly because they're battery powered, and currently we have gas powered and 1 electric one. So these were on the radar to begin with, and we ended up getting a fully funded grant of $25,000 to cover the cost of these. So pending council approves, I'd like to thank Hydro One and the fund for supporting Essex Fire on this.
Council. Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Development Services, Climate Change and Adaptation 5-year update grant application. Director Chadwick.
Thank you once again, Mayor Bondi. We are on a roll with reports related to grant applications. So the purpose of this report is to seek your direction in completing a 5-year update on the town's climate change adaptation plan, which was adopted by council in 2021. We're also looking for your resolution of support in a grant application to complete that very same 5-year update. So Climate Ready, which is what we call our CCAP, which was adopted back in 2021, it provides a roadmap, as you know, on how the town can prepare and adapt to the impacts of climate change rather than preventing climate change through policy, process, infrastructure, and communication developments. Since the CCAP was designed for a 5-year period ending in March of 2026, it is intended to be reevaluated and updated in 2026 based on the latest available information and resources. So the preparation of the council adopted 2021 CCAP, it was made possible with funding and support from FCM, which is the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, through a program called Municipalities for Climate Innovation and Climate Innovation Program, MCIP. So at the time of grant approval in 2020, the town of Essex received a grant in the amount of just over $106,000 for a contract employee to complete the CCAP. Accordingly, the preparation of a 5-year update is estimated to cost around $100,000. FCM has opened up a program that would fund 70% of the cost for a maximum of $70,000. If successful at obtaining the grant, the town may fund the remaining 30% of the cost through the Green Reserve Fund, which has sufficient balance to do so. What we're also doing to alleviate even utilizing those reserves is administration is also exploring an additional grant opportunity through Enbridge to fund a portion of that 30% contribution. So it's important for council to know that this project is contingent on a successful grant. Therefore, if unsuccessful at obtaining the grant, administration will report back to council with alternative funding options or postponement of the project to a later time frame. Thank you.
Questions, comments, Councillor Verbeek?
Thank you. Of course, I'm going to support, but my question is the cost here is very similar to the original cost. And I'm just like, so much work was put into the original document, and I just don't see that the same amount of work is going to be required, because we have this wonderful document. We still have so much to do. I'm going to hope that going forward, we're going to, cut and copy this and improve on it. I'm just wondering, like, that's like the cost is very similar, and the size of the project seems like it would be not substantially less, but not the same as when we were starting. Like, we have a template to move from forward with now. I'm just wondering.
Mayor, thank you, Councillor Verbeek. You're right that a lot of work was put into it. At the time, it was a contract employee over the course of about 18 months or just over 18 months to complete the work. So the vision for completing the 5-year update, it includes more than just looking at what was already completed, but also procuring baseline climate projection data, revisiting the impacts, considering new impacts, assessing current and future vulnerability and risk, reviewing progress of identified actions, and establishing new goals and actions. So what you'll see in the annual reports, which we bring to council in April of every year, there is a lot of green. So this last annual update, there was a lot of green where actions were completed. There is still yellow, which again, as a part of the 5-year update, we would look at progress of those identified actions. The 5-year update is also envisioned to include internal, community, and stakeholder consultation to provide that insight and guidance and technical expertise. At this point, it is an estimate. If the cost of the study comes in a lot less, and by retaining a consultant to assist us, and it comes in a lot less, that 70% threshold would be less and the town's contribution would be less. We are estimating that the project would cost 100. It quite possibly could be less than that, but we do anticipate quite a bit of work with that 5-year update.
Clarity. Thank you.
Other questions, comments from members of council? Director Chadwick, would this be kind of similar in terms of you would have a ad hoc committee that lasts 15 months or so again?
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. At this point, we haven't written the terms, or we'll say the terms of the RFP. We haven't written out exactly what we're looking for. We want to provide consultants with some creativity and some flexibility to tell us how they would like to facilitate a 5-year update. We loved the concept at the time of having that external climate adaptation team. We anticipate there's going to be external consultation. I just don't know what shape it will take.
Looking for a mover and a seconder that the Development Services report be received and that council direct administration to apply for the Climate Ready Plans and Processes Grant Program from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And that council approve the post-budget capital expenditure in the amount of $100,000 for 2026 and to be contingent and funded with $70,000 from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities grant monies and $30,000 from the town's green fund. Moved by Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor Mabey. Any further questions, comments? Councillor McGuire, please.
Thanks through the chair. Just one last time. Why do we need to approve this now and not, like, why is it post-budget?
Mayor. So there is a grant that's currently open and it closes on September the 16th. Earlier, someone had mentioned these really tight windows to apply for grants. So we needed to bring this one forward post 2025 and pre 2026.
All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Parks and Facilities, Essex Town Center Park Design, feedback results. Director Morissette has a slideshow for us. Yay.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. So in May of 2025, administration came to council with a concept design of the Essex Town Center Park. So since that time, we put out a public feedback survey in the month of May to get some information from the public on what they would like and what they don't like, and take that feedback and kind of tweak the design plans to their needs. So in the meantime, we did reach out to a couple of different organizations because there were some questions about the amenities that would be included in a neighborhood park versus a community park. So I did a little bit of a slideshow just to provide a little education for council so that they're aware of what those typical types of amenities are. Now, there's nothing to say that we can't do some of those amenities, or it's ultimately up to council what they want to see, but these are typically the standards that you would see in parks throughout Ontario. So we contacted Ontario Parks Association and Parks and Recreation Ontario to see what those standards are. So I'm going to take you through those standards before we get into a little bit of the design. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So in a neighborhood park, which is what this Essex Town Center Park is, you generally find the size to be 0.4 to 1 hectares in size. They're designed to be around that neighborhood area to facilitate those different types of activities. And the amenities typically include open air structures, playgrounds, seating, bike racks, and things of that nature. They're meant to serve the area within the immediate neighborhood, which is typically 500 meters radius around the park, which also coincides with our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And the parks are intended to be walkable destinations. Again, they're to serve that surrounding neighborhood. So you typically would not see parking lots built in a neighborhood park. It's usually on-street parking. Next slide. So the next slide, you'll see in a community park, they're generally larger in size, which is 1.2 to 3.2 hectares. And they have more amenities because they're serving a larger community, not just a neighborhood. So you'll see things such as washrooms, parking lots, splash pads, sports fields, and things for more active types of recreational activities. So like I said, they're built to serve surrounding areas, like larger community scales rather than just your neighborhood. So you'll see parking lots because people will typically drive to those destinations for the activities rather than just walking. Similarly, for washrooms, most neighborhood parks don't have washrooms because people are walking to that destination, so they're close enough to their own house. So they wouldn't be driving a vehicle where they would need that in a community park. And then community parks are typically home to athletic type stuff like baseball diamonds and soccer fields as well. Next slide, please. So in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, this is a gap analysis that was done for Essex Center. So you can see all of the radius areas around our current parks. And on the top left side in the yellow area, you can see there's no radial area with Essex Town Center. So that's a gap with a park. And now that we have that subdivision there, it's showing that we should have some sort of parkland to make sure that we're hitting our 500-meter radius around existing parks. Next slide, please. So I compiled all of the questions that we received from the survey. So I'm not going to go through every single individual comment because it was included in the report as well as the slideshow. So if council has specific questions about these, then I can certainly answer them. But they were grouped into 3 different areas. So miscellaneous comments are more comments that were made that don't specifically relate to a park. They might be things like different types of events or potentially negative comments that don't specifically relate. And then we have community park related comments. So things that you would see again as larger scales. So you'll see, I think if you can skip 2 slides right there. So you'll see comments like we want to see a parking lot or we have to add a dog park, things of that nature. Again, things that you would see in a larger scale park, not your neighborhood parks. And if you can skip 2 slides to neighborhood parks. So these are the comments that are specifically related to this size and style of a park. So there's 3 pages of these, and most of the neighborhood park related comments were positive in nature. Overall, the feedback that we received about this design plan was very positive, and it seems like the initiative that the community really wants to see is that this is going to happen sooner than later. It sounds like there may have been some promises made from the developer on timelines that we didn't have control over. So there was an expectation out there that they were going to have this sooner. And they are really hopeful that this is going to take place sooner than later. So what the plan is, next slide. So what the plan is to go to council. With council's approval tonight, we'll be able to get some quotes on the design plans so that we have a solid number going into budgets so that we can potentially, pending approval from council during the budget deliberations, have this as a project for the 2026 budget. I am here to answer any questions if there are.
Thank you, Jake. Before we go to council, one quick question. All of the miscellaneous comments, I see some of them have questions in them. Were we ever able to provide a response to them?
Through the mayor, there was outreach on a number of the comments. I can't specifically say if I answered every single comment that came in, but a number of them, if there were more question-based, I did try and reach out.
Questions from council? Councillor Verbeek and then Councillor McGuire-Belize.
I'm wondering if I'm just missing it, or did we not include a pollinator garden?
Through the mayor. So that's not something that's specifically on the plans because we would want to address like the landscaping portion of the plans would all be controlled through the town. So we are looking at different property areas that we have right now of where we can put the pollinator gardens. So our assistant manager of parks and projects is looking at that as part of his scope right now of the different locations that we can have where we can allow those pollinator gardens. So once this came online as part of the landscaping plan, which would be internal, then we'd look at that. But this is just a schematic design kind of showing a concept.
A lot, and I'm really glad to hear that it's part of the conversation.
Please.
Thanks through the chair. So looks really great. I'm wondering, you said you didn't use all the comments. Obviously you can't. These are a lot of positive comments. Were there any negative comments? I mean, there's 2 here. Don't spend 300,000 on a park, and I never see kids on the park, but was there anything that stood out other than those 2 for negative comment?
Through the mayor, I don't think there was anything that was considered negative that was implementable. I think some of the comments really related to allocation of money, which is council's decision on how to allocate those funds. Like a good example is I'd like to see the grass cut and properties maintained. Well, we are doing that. I think that this comment kind of came last year when we were in that transition period of when we weren't actually maintaining the property yet. Things like, why aren't they more central in the neighborhood? Well, we don't really necessarily get that decision. It's part of the development plan. So we have to work with the developers on the best location based on their site plan as well. Some of the comments that are implementable, there was, of course, like any park, comments about swings. So some of the local residents say that they have younger children, so they'd like to see more child swings than they would the regular, more adult swings. But overall, I don't think there was anything that really stood out as a negative comment to me anyways. But I would suggest council go through those comments in case there is.
Yeah, just to further, I maybe said it too negatively. Like we have a plan. Was there anything like, I'd like to see something for teenagers, I'd like to see basketball, like, or was everybody just content with a toddler's park?
Through the mayor. So this park isn't designed for toddlers. The age range is from 18 months to 12 years old. That is the only range of playground equipment until you start getting outside into like adult type stuff. So there was a couple comments about more items for teenagers. So one thing that working with the park designers is that the rope section of this is more for the older range of kids. The comment that the playground manufacturer said is they like to perch on the ropes and kind of use it as a bit of a hangout area. as is the pavilion area. Kids like to go and hang out under the pavilion area. So there are things in there that you would typically see that more teenagers and adults would use rather than the younger kids. With that being said, typically you would see those teenage type activities like basketball courts and like the new fitness style equipment, that stuff. You would see that more at your community park destinations because again, the neighborhood parks are walkable. So you'd have more of the younger people going to those areas where teenagers are able to ride their bike to different destinations, and you'd see those bigger amenities at those community style parks. So with the comments that were in the report, that was again, mostly we're dealing with a certain land area. So if we were to remove something, we could add something. But the overwhelming results of the survey show that they were in support of it. So that's why we didn't want to remove the pavilion area to put a basketball court when we saw most of the comments were positive in supporting that.
Questions, comments from members of council? Seeing none. I need a mover and a seconder that council approve the design plan and prepare cost estimates for presentment at the 2026 budget. Needing a mover and a seconder, council. Councilor Mady, Councilor Allard, any other questions, comments? All in favor? That's carried. And if residents wish to see that slideshow, it is on our website under our council agenda. Legal and legislative services, needing a mover and a seconder, that the report be received and that the agreement be read a first, second, third time, and that is the execution of agreement to amend consulting services between the Corporation of the Town of Essex and Dr. Jessica Laba. Director Malandrucolo, or we'll get a mover and a seconder first. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Mayor Bondi supports, and Director Malandrucolo, do you want to just walk us through it a little bit?
Yeah, I just thought I would explain what was happening here in this amendment to the consulting services agreement. So the town employs a nurse practitioner who works with Dr. Jessica Laba in Harrow. In the 2025 budget deliberations, Dr. Laba requested an increase in her consulting services fees from $4,000 to $5,104, so about $1,100 consulting service fee increase. Council approved that increase through the deliberations, but we never amended the lease agreement. Our department did not want to pay that increase until the lease agreement was amended. So we've worked with Dr. Laba to amend the lease agreement just to increase the consulting service fee for the next, I believe it's remainder 2.5 years in her agreement. So this is just a housekeeping measure to allow us to pay that increased funding that was already approved by council.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions from members of council? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Reports from our youth members. Youth Member Foster, Youth Member Smith, first day of school.
Welcome back to the first day of school. And then secondly, on Friday is the Junior Optimist Wellness Night. So it's from 6 to 9 p.m. in the youth center downstairs. It's free for entry. There's lots of different wellness activities. There's yoga, there's gift bags, there's anything wellness you could think of. Come on down, it's free. Bring the kids and enjoy a fun night. Thank you.
I'll just say the same thing as Lauren. Come to Wellness Night. A couple more things. Registration for fall programs is open. The classes will start the week of September 14th. So that's for your swimming lessons, things like that. I encourage you all to sign your kids up. And we've launched the Zoomers Essex Active Lunch and Learn. Our first date is already full and has gotten a lot of interest. We'll open up our October date in the coming weeks. So 2 things for all of you there to keep in your mind. So thank you.
Okay, there is no county council update. Oh, okay. Councilor B.
The age range for Friday night, is that just high school youth?
It's geared more towards high school. If younger or like some of the older elementary kids want to come, they're more than welcome to. Just obviously with parents there to super.
No county council update tonight because we just had a meeting and we're meeting first. Correspondence to be received in 13.1, looking to receive all the correspondence. Then if members of council wish to pull out individual correspondence, they may do so. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Hammond. Deputy Mayor Shepley, all in favor? That's carried. Any items of correspondence that members of council wish to pull out? Councillor Verbeek.
13.1.6, the West Lincoln resolution. To support the Elect Her Respect campaign. It sure rang home after my first session at AMO that I had suggested I would be giving a report about. I think I'd like to support this letter and send a letter of support.
Okay, moved by Councillor Verbeek that the Elect Respect campaign be received and supported, and it is about democracy and where democracy is healthy and everyone is able to participate, and that, we want respectful debate. And whereas Ontario's municipally elected officials are dealing with increasingly hostile and unsafe work environments facing threats and harassment, and whereas social media platforms have exacerbated disrespectful dialogue, negative commentary, and toxic engagement, which disincentivizes individuals, especially women and candidates from diverse backgrounds, from running for office. And you can read the rest of it online. I just wanted to make sure everybody had a little tidbit of it. Moved by Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor Mady. Any questions, comments to the motion? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Any other items of correspondence? Councillor Verbeek.
One point 1.3, I'd just like to send a letter of support.
By Deputy Mayor Shepley, that 13.1.3 from the Corporation of the Township of North Glengarry, a request to amend OREG for blue box inclusion of current ineligible sources, supported by Councillor McGuire Blaze. Any other questions, comments to this? And we'll send it off to our list. Okay, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Councillor Verbeek, did you have any others?
Yes. 13.1.2, the Corporation of the Municipality of West Nipissing, to put a moratorium on the aerial spraying of glyphosate, I don't know how to pronounce it, glyphosate, in the Nipissing Forest.
That we support the Township of West Nipissing on their moratorium of spraying. Needing a seconder. Councillor Allard, any questions? All in favor? Oh, Councillor Mady?
Wondering if, do we use any glyphosates in our spraying program?
I hope not.
Through the chair, I don't have that information, but I can find out and circulate it to council.
Get on.
Thank you.
Motion is on the table. I see no other hands. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Any other items of correspondence? Okay, 13.2, correspondence to be received and supported. Santa's Village Committee, that we receive the resignation of Derek Knapp from Santa's Village Committee, and that council direct administration to write a letter of appreciation and thanking him for his commitment. Councillor McGuire Blaze receives, and Councillor Allard. Any questions? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Committee meeting minutes. Looking for a motion that we receive all the committee meeting minutes. We have the Accessibility Advisory, the Appeals, the Affordable Housing Task Force, Essex Municipal Heritage, Essex Center BIA, and the Striking Committee. And there are two action items in there that we have recommendations to council, that Cameron Hatfield, Jordan Mills, and Jamie Woods to be appointed to members of Santa's Village for the term ending November 15th, 2026, and that the recommendation is Bernard Malash, Lori Stevenson, and Marnie Aldridge be appointed as members of the Essex Municipal Heritage Committee for the term ending November 15th. Looking for a mover and a seconder that we receive those minutes and approve those people. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Counselor Hammond. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried unanimously. We have nothing under financial or new business. We will go to notices of motion. We'll go to Director Malandruko.
Bondi, through you. The following notice of motion was presented at the July 7, 2025 regular council meeting and is being brought forward this evening for council's consideration. Moved by Councilor Verbeek that council direct Town of Essex administration to seek information from the Ministry of Transportation regarding accidents at the corner of County Road 11 and Concession Road 11 and provide council with a verbal report on administration's findings.
Verbeek, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. Counselor Verbeek.
Sure, thanks, through you, Mayor. I think it explains itself. I'm just, since I've been representing this ward over the years, I've received lots of members of the community have reached out with concerns about this intersection. I know of a few accidents there. I hear of a lot of near misses, and I'm just asking administration to reach out to the MTO and let us know if it's actually a really dangerous intersection, if there's steps we can take, or if it's more of a perception thing, which we often see in things like this.
Questions to the motion? I saw an accident there the other day. Yes. It was posted on social media. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
County have any information on that being based on it's one of the roads is a county road? Would we be able to retrieve any of that information through the county?
Chair, so we have access to the same information, the county and the town. They have some other, let's say, traffic resources. We've already reached out knowing that this motion was coming, so we should be able to share some information, even though we have access to the same stuff.
I should be aware because we have it, but do you know where this corner resides on our list of intersections at the county? Is it in that top 100 list?
Chair, it's been a while since I reviewed that list, but I don't believe so.
Deputy Mayor, as soon as we started talking about this intersection again, I looked on the list and it wasn't there. This notice of motion was also the OPP they can't release information, so they're recommending that we go through this way. And I think the county can come into play, but it's not on the top 100. So unless we get some data, I don't think the county will up it on their list of priorities. All in favor? Oh, Councilor McGuire, please.
Through the chair, what kind of information would the MTO be able to provide us with? I'm just, if the OPP can't provide us with information and we don't have information, what kind of information are we looking to get from the MTO?
The chair, so we can, municipalities do have, which Essex is one of them, has access to statistical collision data. And what it is it pulls information from police reports. So the only information that we can obtain is anything that's been reported to the OPP. The reason that the OPP say they can't release it is because of privacy concerns. So they can't freely release private documents like police reports to municipalities or to anybody. So the MTO has created a portal for municipalities to access that information, which we have access to.
Verbeek.
Madam Mayor, just to wrap this up, to be clear, as I started to state there, it's just asking administration, right, to get this information for us. And if we find out that it is a really dangerous corner, as residents are saying, then maybe we'll have some data to up it to encourage the county to bring it up on their, into their priority intersections. Or, as I said, it could very well just be a perception issue.
In favor? And that is carried unanimously as well. Director Malandruko.
Mayor Bondi, through you. The following notice of motion was presented at the August 11, 2025 regular council meeting and is being brought forth this evening for council's consideration. Moved by Councilor McGuire Blaze. Whereas a temporary access way was constructed between Fairview Avenue West and Morton Avenue in Essex Center to facilitate access for construction vehicles during the development of the subdivision located behind Holy Name Elementary School. And whereas in the future, a road will be built in the approximate location of the temporary access way as a permanent main artery for the subdivision, improving access and connectivity for residents. And whereas the town has recently blocked access to the temporary access way and it is no longer required for construction purposes. And whereas until the permanent road is built, the residents located in the subdivision are left without an efficient way to walk or bike to school. And whereas it is understood that the high school children residing in the subdivision are not provided with school bus service in their subdivision because it is assumed that they can walk to bus stops using the temporary access way. And whereas the current closure of the access way creates accessibility issues for the school children living in the area. And whereas the grassed areas on either side of the temporary access way are not being adequately maintained, detracting from the overall condition, safety, and appearance of the area. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council direct administration to provide a report detailing the reasons for the temporary access way closure, a timeline for the installation of the permanent road and potential solutions with timelines and costs for access and connectivity until the permanent road has been constructed, as well as how administration plans to maintain the state and appearance of the temporary access way until it is removed.
By Councilor McGuire Blaze, supported by Councilor Mady. Councilor McGuire Blaze?
Thanks through the chair. So this was as motion states, it was a temporary access way. It's a gravel path, it's similar to an alleyway. What's concerning is that we've not only put barriers up, there's now cement barriers. So we cannot get, I don't know, they have to be going over there with weed whackers to maintain the lawn because you can't get a lawnmower back there. So it's not maintained on a regular. It really looks in poor taste. It looks like the school is not maintaining the land, and it's not the school that's not maintaining the land. It's actually the town. Also, if you have a child who lives back there and attends Essex High School, for example, the school board tells you to use that alleyway to get to school, to walk to school. They're not providing a bus because they can walk down that alleyway. There's no way to clear the snow, to put salt down. So students have no way other than to walk almost 2 kilometers out of their way to get to school. So I don't understand why, I understand why we closed it. I don't know why we can't leave it open as an alleyway as it was and maintain it that way. Why we put the barriers up is because of a complaint, because of a principal at a school didn't want people parking there and didn't want people parking in their parking lot. I asked for some salt one year and you closed it right down. And that was not the intention of asking for salt. The salt was just because it was icy. So I understand that it needs to be maintained, which is what I'm asking for. Let's reopen it and let's just put some salt down. I'll pay for it out of my contingency fund if that's what we have to do. You have to salt it twice a year. I don't know why we can't do it. So what is it going to cost us and how can we get it open for the people who live back there?
Comments to the motion? Councilor Mady.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, I support it. I think that we should be looking into it. It's students that are walking. But I really think that it highlights a more important issue that the decisions are made by West and the school board and the transportation consultants there. They're the ones that may have decided that this temporary access should be a student pathway and design their bus routes and stuff with that in mind. Now, without consulting the town, and they would have been told it was a temporary, they could have put in proper busing and they could have had their own solutions to this. But now we're going to take those and force them on taxpayers. And that really bothers me that we should definitely be highlighting the fact that this is a school board in West's problem, not a town of Essex problem. And it could really happen anywhere in the county. This doesn't have to be just an Essex problem either. This is probably a problem that's happening in Lakeshore and Amherstburg and elsewhere. So I'd really like to see this brought up to a county level. And as part of this report, maybe as a friendly amendment, have our administration reach out to West and, excuse me, make sure that their policies actually reflect what's happening here in Essex.
I'm wondering, this report might not happen overnight. So I'm wondering if we should write to West sooner rather than later saying that this is not a student active transportation route. I'll just throw that out there. Deputy Mayor?
Wondering if administration wants to talk to the fact that, like, when do these roads, obviously, we're not maintaining this road, we're not doing anything with this road. What's the normal procedure in a situation like this? Like, what's our liability if we start to maintain it and kids walk down that road, slip and fall? Regardless of what West has done, like, what's our liability if we don't maintain it up to a standard?
So the property is owned by the town of Essex. It's because it's the town of Essex property, the public tends to use it. During the school year, we received, complaints from the school about the icy conditions. There were concerns about slip and falls. During the summer months, we receive a number of complaints from the Woodview subdivision about dust concerns as well, from vehicles traveling down the gravel road and kicking up dust. So we made the decision to close the road following the completion of the Woodview Phase 3 subdivision. And that was because during the plan of subdivision, it was permitted to use that land as a construction access only so that we could ensure that loaded trucks and materials and things weren't going to be traveling down the already completed phases of Woodview. So with the completion of that final phase and the potential liability concerns and the complaints from the subdivision, we made the decision to close that road. Like any slip and fall or injury or anything that happens on town property, there's a significant concern and chance that we could be held liable or that we could be pursued. So that's what really motivated the closure of that road. But if there's anything that our director of legal wants to add to that, I know that we also had some concerns from the school about parking within the soccer fields as well during the winter months. So we did deal with that and consulted our insurance company as well. So there was a significant amount of conversation and background that went into making.
From Director Malin-Juklo.
Just speaking to legal liability, the road being closed is a much less of a legal liability to the town than the road being reopened. If the roads are reopened, we have to bring it up to standards, the proper safety standards to allow it to be used properly. With the road being closed, people who are using it, as long as we have the proper signage and we're doing things like not maintaining it to a level where it can be used properly, we are prohibiting that use, and that use is actually as long as it's done properly, trespassing, and then we actually absolve ourselves of liability.
The school board's concerns about public parking in their lot really has nothing to do with us. I mean, if someone wants to park in there, we're not telling them they can. If they want to tell them they can't put signage up, that's up to them. But I mean, that's, I think, a whole separate point. I'm not sure what more liability we're at opening it now versus when it was open before. Wouldn't it be just the same liability? We had it open before for temporary use. We didn't really say that no one else could use it, and they were using it. So whatever risks we had then, I don't see how they'd be any different today. I'm not sure how long that stretch of the road is. I've never went back there when it was open for that. Also wondering about the toll that our other roads are taken on with all the construction going on and behind that phase now. I went on Joan Flood the other day, and it's not that old of a subdivision compared to my subdivision, which my road's getting redone, 35 years old mine, and there's already all kinds of maintenance work done on that road. So I'm also worried about the toll that is being taken on by the other roads right now with the heavy equipment trucks. So I'm kind of in favor of it. Unless I get someone to tell me that you just can't do it for a particular reason that has nothing to do with the school board.
Councilor McGuire, please. Councilor McGuire, please.
Thanks. Through the chair. I'm not asking this because of the school board. I'm just saying they closed it because of a conversation that they had with the school board. That's the reason why they closed it. That's not why I'm asking them to open it. But Counselor Mady is correct in that we do need to talk to the busing companies and the school board and see who gets to make the decision on where these students have to walk to school. And for liability, there's no difference of them walking down that road or walking down an alleyway. There's many alleys in the town of Essex that are way below the standard or the development of this current road, and people drive and walk down them every single day. We don't close the alleyways. I don't see why we can't use this as an alleyway type of laneway to allow the students to go, to allow the parents to make a path for the students to bike or walk. I mean, you're not getting heavy traffic up there. It's a dirt road. So you might get one or two vehicles who live at the end there, but why it's closed, I don't understand. Counselor Guerin's correct. They're still building houses back there. We still have cement trucks coming and trucks with lumber and constantly every day. I think right now there's 2 or 3 houses being built back there and being developed. And there's another, 40 more back there that need to be developed. So until that development is done, I don't see why we closed it. And hopefully, knock on wood, we have a Hanlon extension and that doesn't have to be open for that much longer. So what, Kevin, another year, 2026, we'll get the Hanlon extension. So that's the reason why I think we should open it, why we should treat it like an alleyway, and I don't know why we can't.
All in favor of the motion to get a report? And that is unanimous. Director Malinjuko?
Mayor Bondi, through you, I was asked by the mayor to remove notice of motion 17.2.2, so that will not be brought forward for consideration tonight. But 17.2.3 will be brought forward for consideration. It was presented at the August 11, 2025 council meeting. It was moved by Councillor Allard. Whereas residents on Nottingham Drive have expressed concerns about growing safety concerns, especially with the increased traffic from events held in this area, and whereas Nottingham Drive is a short road with a blind curve, a stop sign halfway down, and lots of families with kids walking or biking, and whereas on busy weekends, cars are often parked on both sides of the road, making it even harder to see or navigate safely, now therefore be it resolved that Council direct administration to hire a traffic engineering consultant to conduct a traffic and safety review of Nottingham Drive and report back with recommendations for traffic calming or safety improvements that they deem appropriate, which is to be added to the draft 2026 budget for Council's consideration. And further, that the town is to request that OPP increase their monitoring and enforcement of traffic laws in the area, particularly during peak weekends and special events.
Ordered by Councillor Verbeek. Councillor Allard, did you wish to speak to your motion? I have Deputy Mayor and then Shepley and then Councillor Hammond.
I'm just curious, like, when I read this, it sounds like we're hiring the traffic engineer to do the study now, and that any recommendations you have, we would add to budget. Am I understanding that correctly? Or are we talking about putting the study on a budget? Like, there's two very different asks there. And I just wonder if you could clear that up, if somebody could clear that up for me.
So yeah, the motion is, from what I understand, is to hire a third-party consultant to complete a report to look at traffic calming or safety improvements of that area. That is certainly something that we could do. However, there's no funding that's identified. So I would make the and then it also further goes to speak to adding any potential improvements to the 2026 budget. So I would recommend that if council is interested in completing this work and completing a safety review of that road, that we include the consulting or the third-party traffic engineer as the 2026 budget request, and that any future considerations will come as part of that. It may be a post-budget or a 2027 budget, because there, even if council decides tonight to proceed with a third-party review, I don't think I would be able to bring those recommendations to get on the 26 budget.
They would make that amendment in this motion that, the consultant is part of the budget and then any, actions taken in the 2027 budget year.
For Allard? Okay, Counselor Allard is okay with that? Counselor Verbeek? Okay. Anybody else wish to speak to this motion? Counselor Verbeek? Oh, sorry, I had Counselor Hammond, then Counselor Verbeek.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor. I'm not inclined to go through with this at this time at all anyways. I would prefer to see this brought up at budget deliberations and have a discussion, see whether council is willing to proceed with this at all. Nottingham being a beach road that has family events that are being hosted by families in the neighborhood. I don't see how a study can protect people from their own, creation of traffic. So it's definitely something that needs more discussion. And I'd like to see that we move it to discussion to or budget deliberations rather than try and decide on this.
Counselor Verbeek, then Counselor Guerin, then Counselor Meady.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. When I saw this on the agenda, it sure piqued my interest because for years we had a cottage on Nottingham, and mostly during the week it was a quiet area. But because we had such a beautiful beach down there, there were a lot of visitors that would come and use the beach. They weren't really supposed to. It was supposed to be just for residents. However, in the last few years, the Polish Club has just skyrocketed. It's a wonderful business. I highly recommend a nice afternoon visit because you don't go and just get great food. It's an event, but it attracts a lot of people. I will go down there and visit family members on the weekend. Both sides of the streets are lined up with cars that are parked all along it, and they're frequenting the beach, but the Polish Club. So I've seen that it's really changed down there, and it's time we look at it, and maybe there's some traffic calming measures that could be put into place, or a stop sign, or you may come back with the review and say there's nothing really that can be done, but it certainly does need to be looked at because a lot has changed down there.
Yeah, I'm kind of on same page as Councilor Hammond. I think it is a budget talk. And I'm just wondering, I don't frequent down there too much, but what's the difference between the Nottingham and the Belcraft and a couple other streets that have access right down to the beach area too? Maybe we're looking at the whole area instead of just one road. Or am I led to believe that it's just Nottingham, the other roads are fine?
Meady?
Through you, Chair. So, I know the area pretty well. So to shed the light on that, I believe a lot of the complaints that I can't speak for my other counselor, but I imagine a lot of the complaints that he would get, because I know a lot of the complaints I get about that, is that Nottingham kind of comes down to kind of dead ends at the club. That I couldn't agree more with what you said, Councillor Verbeek. Has been doing wonderful, and I wish everybody in Essex comes down and takes a look at it. It's great. But what it is doing now is it's really lining that street up with, and as Councillor Hammond said, it's a beach road. So it's a narrow road to start with, and then you get cars half parked on both sides all the way down it. And then you get people that aren't familiar with the area traveling 50 kilometers an hour down the middle of that. And with lots of new families and kids playing in there, it's becoming a problem. And those are the complaints that I've been getting in that area. I would certainly warrant that, yeah, the whole neighborhood could be looked at, because it is a special case in our beach where we have a commercial establishment right at the end. So I would agree that, the whole area could be looked at. And I believe with the amendment, it will be talked about at budget now, right? Yeah.
Counselor McGuire, please.
Thanks through the chair. Just wondering if it's a narrow road and the issue is that people are now parking on it, would not just be more feasible to make it no parking on the road? rather than spending money on a traffic study for an entire neighborhood?
Director Gerard?
The chair. Yeah, I mean, council has the option to look at those types of things within your authority, so through the municipal act. So, parking restriction is one, again, a very contentious thing is changing parking. Like a lot of the beach roads, I believe Nottingham is a 40 km/h zone. It's a dead end road. What makes this one different is that it has a business that attracts a significant amount of people and has large events. So that may be one option, is to restrict parking. Most of the complaints I hear from that neighborhood during events is about parking and is about speeding. Speeding can often be a perception issue, not necessarily that people are speeding, but the feel of the road. It feels like people are speeding. I will say that to conduct a traffic review of this area is likely to cost somewhere like $5,000 and $15,000 for a consultant to look at this. It's something that we can certainly engage a traffic engineer to start putting together something for budget. I think that considering a project like this during budget would be appropriate, considering the cost and a lot of the other competing priorities. I would say that that's probably the best bet. If council does want to look at this, you can kind of table it to budget in a sense. You're passing the motion amendment, and then you can have the discussion at budget time, which will give you the actual number to consider and maybe what the options might be. That being said, again, a dead end road that's 40 km/h may not result in any traffic improvements or safety improvements. But if you want that peace of mind, then we could hire a traffic engineer. The other alternative is that we could prepare a report with some alternatives for you. Again, you could decide that at budget, even if that's the way you want to.
We're passing this with the amendment that this will come back at budget, and that's exactly what we're doing at this point in time, correct? Okay, thank you. Just in case anybody was not understanding that. Thank you.
I will be supporting the motion. I've got stopped several times out and about in Harrow and Colchester saying that it's really built up down there and there's a lot of traffic and a lot of people are coming from outside our municipality. So that's the other thing is they don't know our beach roads and I think we have to find some balance. So I think this would help put them at ease if we review this area. All in favor? Opposed? And that is one councillor opposed. So that's carried. Director Malinjuku?
Mayor Bondi, through you. The following notices of motion are for presentment only and will be brought forward for councilors' consideration at the September 15, 2025 regular council meeting. The first one moved by Councillor Allard, whereas council and employees of the town of Essex have experienced harassment and other reprehensible conduct by members of the public and other third parties. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Essex Council direct administration to develop a policy to regulate and provide guidelines for addressing the conduct of members of the public and other third parties when dealing with council and employees of the corporation of the town. The second, moved by Councilor McGuire-Blaise, whereas the town will be installing a sidewalk on Irwin Avenue between Fairview Avenue East and County Road 23, and whereas there's currently no designated pedestrian crossing along County Road 23 connecting Irwin Avenue, and whereas the nearest controlled intersections at Talbot Street and County Road 23 and at Fairview Avenue East and County Road 23 lack continuous sidewalks along the east side of County Road 23 to connect to Irwin Avenue, and whereas the absence of a crossing at this location poses a potential safety risk for pedestrians, including students, residents, and visitors. Now therefore be it resolved that council direct administration to work with the County of Essex to complete an assessment for the installation of a pedestrian crosswalk at Irwin Avenue across County Road 23 and include the installation cost in the 2026 capital budget for council's consideration, as this would be the most cost-effective and efficient way to ensure pedestrian safety and connectivity in this area.
Questions from council members. Councilor McGuire-Blaise?
Sorry, threw me off there. Nothing to report.
Nothing to report.
Well, through you, Mayor, I just want to say we had another successful Hero Fair. Another record pie auction. I'm sure record numbers, but we've had record numbers all summer long. So, I think the staycations are really, our community's really benefited from that. I know the wineries have been busy. Also, we concluded Tune Up the Parks this past week and another successful summer with those. I don't think we only had one rain out day, but well-attended events for sure. It's been a good summer.
He has nothing. Bylaws that require a third and final reading. Bylaw 2470, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the August 11th regular council meeting, be read third and finally passed on September 2nd. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Hammond. Councillor Mady, any questions? This is just confirming the proceedings. All in favor? And that's carried. Bylaw 2468, being a bylaw to license and regulate short-term rentals in the town of Essex. Needing a mover and a seconder, that bylaw 2468, being a bylaw to license and regulate short-term rentals in the town of Essex, be read a third and finally passed on September 2nd. Moved by Councillor McGuire-Blaise, supported by Councillor Hammond. Questions? Comments? All in favor? And that is carried. Bylaws that requiring a first and second reading, 2478, being a bylaw for the declaration and disposition of surplus lands, 36 Queen Street and a portion of 25 Queen Street by the Corporation of the Town of Essex, and that bylaw 2478, being a bylaw for the declaration and disposition of surplus lands, be read a first and second time and provisionally adopted on September 2nd. And I do not believe council has received any correspondence from the community by email on this. I just wanted that noted for public record. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Thank you, and I'll move it.
Shepley moves, supported by Councilor McGuire-Blaise, and the Deputy Mayor has asked for a recorded vote. Director Malin-Duclos.
Thanks, through the chair. So you're correct that we haven't received any emails from this, but we have received, I have noticed that on your Facebook page, there was a lot of pushback about lack of parking or missing the parking, public parking. So doing this, is there sufficient parking in the municipality or in town center if we deem this as surplus and someone does buy it, because I'm sure that's where we're going with this, will there still be enough parking in Harrow if this is no longer our property?
Would like it. I think we will also do, like, it's on our radar to do a parking review. And one of the things we could look at is potentially Fire Station 3 becoming parking when we move our fire station. Theo Drusevich.
When we had discussions on declaring the surplus, we did look at the utilization rates of these parking lots. I'm going to pass over to Director Gerard to comment further on that, but we did believe that they were not fully utilized at the time when we evaluated this.
Not much further to add. We did, between development services and infrastructure, we did review parking alternatives and we did look. And I would say that we did see like parking happening there, but not like a full parking lot at all times.
And this is the former old car wash in Harrow. So there used to be a business there, and it's the parking lot kitty corner of the Harrow Tim Hortons. Some of the cars that are parked there are parked there 24/7. They're from residents that don't ever move and they live in the area. So that's something that I noticed too. I drive by it every day. Like I drive by it twice a day, 3 times a day. I'll want to ask for the recorded vote. Any other questions? Councillor Hammond?
As a member of the Affordable Housing Task Force here, I have to ask, have we done anything in requesting affordable housing in this network as we're about to give away public land? I'm a strong advocate for public land being for the public.
So Councillor Hammond, tonight, we're just declaring it surplus. We're not talking about anything else other than declaring it surplus.
Okay, then I won't be in favor of declaring it surplus until I get some sort of answer as to what we're doing about affordable housing.
Okay. All right, Director Malinjuko.
And through you, I want to remind everyone that we're looking for 2 readings, so this is just a provisional pass of the bylaw. Deputy Mayor Shepley has asked for a recorded vote. Deputy Mayor Shepley, how do you vote? Deputy Mayor Shepley supports. Councillor Verbeek, how do you vote?
Support.
Councillor Verbeek supports. Councillor Allard, how do you vote? Councillor Allard supports. Councillor McGuire Blaze, how do you vote? Councillor McGuire Blaze supports. Councillor Guerin, how do you vote? Councillor Guerin opposes. Councillor Hammond, how do you vote? Councillor Hammond opposes. Councillor Meady, how do you vote?
Support.
Councillor Meady supports. Mayor Bondi, how do you vote? Mayor Bondi supports. In a vote of 6 to 2. Yeah, that is 2/3. In a vote of 6 to 2, we passed the bylaws provisionally passed for 2 readings.
Okay, thank you, Director Malinjuko. Bylaw 2477 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the September 2nd meeting, needing a mover and a seconder. For the first and second, Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Verbeek, any questions? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously, and I need a motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Meady, all in favor. Have a good evening, everybody.